Good evening. Well, here. Right. Hello, everyone. And welcome back. Your ears do not deceive you, but then they kinda do. Because I'm still in Florida. However, the the overwhelming response to the lack of ambiance was enough to make me go see if on this laptop, which I don't use when I record these normally. I use my iMac at home in Puerto Rico, which is hopefully still going to be operational when I get home. Yes, I unplugged everything, and yes, it's not on the floor, but still. Anyway, I brought a copy of the last recording session that I used just as a template for myself to start doing them on the road. And so, in doing that, I had a little snippet of me not talking and the insects and the frogs, which, yes, were recorded for real by me. They were not some sound effect. However, now they sort of are. I have decided in my, I have decided that, that I would do this, that I would loop that up and have it running in the background, and we could all sort of just feel a little warm and snuggly about Puerto Rico right now in this time of, for me, great uncertainty, actually, just to be quite honest with you. Communications are pretty much at blackout level, with the exception of like maybe the one satellite phone in the town that I lived in that's being kind of passed around to be, for people to call for just like a couple of minutes. It's like it's almost, I hate to make this analogy, but then again, it's almost like kind of what's really going on. But it's like getting your fucking jail or prison phone call. It's like that. So many people want to reach out to their loved ones, which is absolutely, completely, 100,000% understandable. But because of that, the details that you're able to get through are kind of minimum, because it's like, hey, I'm okay, everybody's okay, this is the basic thing that's happening, and I gotta love you, bye. And that's that. So anyway, the best of my knowledge is that where I live is nothing like what you've seen on the news for what's happening in San Juan. Damage, yes. Some flooding, yes. Obviously a loss of power and water, that was a given. We lose that there sometimes just because of a regular storm. So, yeah, I have a fairly large degree of certainty that everyone is physically okay. Irma had people in prep mode already, so that when Maria kind of snuck up and got a lot stronger than anybody was expecting her to be, people were ready. Like, the boards were already there to be boarded up. Some things hadn't even been unboarded up. And people doubled down when they realized how dangerous it was getting. So I feel confident that the people I care about are okay. So now, unfortunately, I'm left to worry about places and things, which feels a little shallow, but like, I have to face the fact that I had a way of life going there, and I kind of want to go back to it. It wasn't particularly extravagant, but it was just nice. Anyway, life tangent, #life tangent. But people have been commenting in the videos about the situation, so A, it's, on my mind a little bit, and B, there has been some interest shown, so there's a little info. So, this, as it turns out, is Harry Potter Abridged, and today is episode number 13. Chapter 13 in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And this chapter is entitled Nicolas Flamel. And so we get a passing. We open the chapter with a passing mention of the Mirror of Erised yet again, which, by the way, I have to own up to this too. Related tangent. Totally, after all these years, totally didn't know that the inscription on the top of the mirror is not Latin, but in fact some other words in reverse, which now I didn't. I Googled it. Do I still have that? Yes. Where the fuck is my mouse? All right. Yeah. There it is. And I'm sure, I feel like I'm like the one here that's the only one that's not in on this fucking joke. So I feel, because I've been a fan for, what one might refer to as a hot minute. And I've read these and reread these and listened to the audiobooks countless times. This is one of the little things that somehow completely slipped through the cracks on my part. But in case you're one of those other people like me that didn't know this, the inscription, if it's turned in reverse and the spaces are slightly rearranged, it says, "I show not your face, but your heart's desire." Minus the apostrophe, obviously. I think, anyway, unless there's like a funny symbol in the print version, because I am on the Kindle edition. But anyway, righto. To the task at hand, which is this current chapter, Nicolas Flamel, chapter 13. Here we go. And so, yes, we, as I said, we start with a mention of the mirror, and it's basically just that Harry has, he took Dumbledore's advice. He's not looking for the mirror anymore. He basically is not going to disobey a direct order from Dumbledore. Like, don't go looking for it. Okay, I won't go looking for it. And as a result, the invisibility's cloak has been on the DL. No extra plot devices necessary just yet again. And of course, this is all really being referred to in the past anyway. So, but the mirror not being sought after again hasn't erased what Harry saw when he looked in it. And so that is an issue that remains for him, obviously just remember. And now he started having nightmares, which, by the way, much like Daenerys Targaryen, dreams are a big part of Harry's story. Except that we're fairly certain that they're just well, no. Right. Okay, let's not go down that road just yet. Spoilers abound. And as I always say, we like to spread out our spoilers like thin butter on toast, or somebody who doesn't really like mayonnaise but they like a little bit. That's what we're not just globbing them all over the fucking place, a big nasty messy sandwich. No. Hashtag analogies. All right. I should mention that preparations still take place, ladies and gentlemen, just off screen because of the setup. Right. Anyway, so yeah, Harry's having nightmares, and now it's kind of like the old dream he used to have. It's just like more details are added now. He's seen his parents' face, and he already had remembered and dreamed about a flash of green light and a high cold voice, which is obviously Voldemort laughing. And so now we have a vision of his parents, disappearing in a flash of green light with the high voice cackling. And Ron's like, yeah, Dumbledore's right. That shit could drive you mad, bro. Even though Ron was perfectly enthralled with it, But, that being said, it didn't draw him back. He didn't have to go see himself be a head boy and Quidditch captain again. So it's every once in a while, and actually I'll be paying more attention to this element too, because, Ron is sort of, he's comic relief, but he's more than that. But sometimes it doesn't seem like he's much more than that. So it's like it's worth paying attention to the things that he does that are worth value, because you always get the sense of like, Ron's the kind of friend I would not mind having in real life as a kid, and maybe on into adulthood. But it's like paying attention to why. Because sometimes you get a sense about people and you don't even realize exactly what the details are that have led you to that conclusion, and then you sort of like stop and think about the person, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's why. So that's right. Not that Harry Potter Abridged is turning into the Ron character study. It's more that I want to study every element as I'm doing this, because why not? For the benefit of all. Right. This is a relatively short chapter, but I'm starting to doubt about the shortness of the episode. I'm not going to try and make it extra long. I'm just right. And then, so the holidays are over, and Hermione gets back the day before term, and, of course, even though she might have relaxed on the, breaking rules thing a bit, she's still fucking Hermione, and, to her credit, and she's like, obviously she's torn between, like, being horrified at the idea of Harry getting caught, running around, because Filch and whatnot. And then she's also disappointed that they didn't really find anything out about Flamel. And I guess that means that she sort of approved of him at least sneaking into the library, because it's the library, and that, for the sake of books, man. Anyway, so they're still looking for Flamel, and so they go back to skimming books during their breaks. And then Harry's got Quidditch practice again, and they're working really hard because, it's Wood's like on a fucking mission. Like, that's one of the things I love about Wood. But he's just so determined, and it's not like he wants to win through any sort of stealth or trickery. He just wants to be the best team. And so, like, I can feel you, Wood. Even the Weasley twins, who are pretty keen on the whole game, are like, damn, dude, you're a bit much. But it's mentioned that Harry is actually on Wood's side because, fuck Slytherin, that's why. In the House Championship, they would overtake Slytherin if they win this match. So, oh, and then we also get mentioned, and this is something that happens, I think, in real life for people, and with people who experience bad dreams and nightmares, is sometimes when they're completely exhausted, they're less likely to happen, and that's what's mentioned here, that after practicing a lot and being completely exhausted, Harry comes comes back to the dorm and passes out and doesn't have his nightmares, because I guess his just brain is too tuckered. And then on one wet, rainy, muddy, messy, mucky practice day, Wood's like, BTW, guys, Snape is refereeing. And that news doesn't go over well, obviously, because everybody's like, wait, what? Obviously, he's going to, favor Hufflepuff. So, like, what the fuck? Not that he favors it, but he's going to do anything against Gryffindor. And Wood's like, listen, don't fucking shoot the messenger. This is just the news I found out. Don't yell at me. And he's like, we just have to play a clean game. That's the bottom line. We have to not give Snape a reason to call anything against us. Of course, Harry, believing that Snape was cursing his broom to almost knock him off of it in the last Quidditch match, has a whole other reason for being nervous about Snape being the referee. Even if it's not entirely logical, because let's face it, there's a big difference between sitting in the stands when nobody really looking at you because everybody's watching the game versus being out on the pitch, refereeing the game. Like, you'd have to really be, well, I don't think there's any possible way, but whatever. I still, 11-year-old Harry brain makes perfect sense to be scared of having Snape near you while you're on a broom up high up in the air. So, yeah. Anyway, so Harry runs back to the common room after practice to tell Ron and Hermione. We find out that Ron and Hermione are playing chess, and that chess is the only thing that Hermione loses at, which Harry and Ron both think is, a generally good idea. Because, and, I mean, it's kind of true that she doesn't really, she top of the class and everything. And, she earns that. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. She's not somehow her strategy game is not on point. And it's interesting to me that Ron is good at chess, because chess generally is accepted as like being sort of like this big metaphor for life and decisions and just everything, and yet as a person it doesn't really feel like Ron's much of a strategist to say the least. Yeah, interesting, right? So anyway, so Harry walks in on them playing a game, and Ron's like, wait, and then like Ron catches a look at Harry, and whatever he was trying to concentrate and think on fades anyway, and he's like, dude, you look like shit. What up? And so Harry tells him about the whole Snape refereeing bit, and they're both. And so we get like that. The back and forth of like Hermione saying something and Ron saying something, and don't play, say you're ill, pretend to break your leg, really break your leg. And I love that she writes like that. It does kind of read like almost like it could be really campy, like silly gag humor if it was done a certain way in a visual representation, but I don't know. But in the context of the way the book is written, it doesn't seem over the top slapstick, but I don't know, sometimes. Right. But Harry, of course, is like, there is no reserve. I have to play. And besides, if we lost, it would, no. Just, no, I'm playing. So, anyway, and then at that moment, Neville shows up, somehow getting through the portrait hole, even though we see that he's been hit with what's called the leg locker curse, which, as you can imagine, does what it says it does. And Harry's like, I don't even know how he got through. How did he must have had to bunny hop the whole way up here. Like, holy shit, Neville. Which is interesting because that also shows like a level of determination, and even with Neville being as snivelly as he is at this age. And she really slips in all these little Neville things so that as he does progress, you really can kind of see the seeds of it, of where it's going to come from. And of course, everybody in the common room starts laughing, except for Hermione, who hops up and undoes it so that, Neville could stand up with at least a little teeny tiny bit of dignity instead of flopping around on the fucking floor and shit. But again, kids are cruel, so, that's another thing that happens in life. Right. And then so we find out that it was obviously, I say obviously, but kind of obviously Malfoy that put the leg locker curse on him in the first place. And Hermione's like, go tell the teacher. And Neville's like, I don't want any more trouble. And Ron's like, you just got to stand up to him. Which is, is interesting. Ron is, like, he does not take shit from Malfoy. Like, pretty much from the beginning. Even Harry, like, gets more, I wouldn't say intimidated by, but I don't know. A little more punked by. Like, Ron always is just ready to, like, fucking lay into Malfoy. It seems, anyway. So yeah, he's and then and Neville's like, there's no need to tell me I'm not brave enough to be in Gryffindor. Malfoy already said that, and you're like, oh, Neville. And Harry, in his infinite wisdom, pulls out a chocolate frog to give to Neville, because chocolate is, in fact, the solution to most simple problems. So hey, nothing wrong with that. And Harry's like, you're worth 12 of Malfoy, Neville. Don't let that dude tell you anything. And he's like, the Sorting Hat put you in Gryffindor, and where did it put him? In motherfucking Slytherin. So, case in point. Or point made, or there. Something like that. And we get a little baby weak smile out of Neville. And after eating his chocolate frog, he's like, here, you want the card? You collect them, right? And Harry takes the card. And he's like, oh, it's Dumbledore's card again. He was the first one Oh. And everybody like, what? No, not really. But and Harry's like, I found Nicolas Flamel. I knew I read that shit. I knew it, but I couldn't remember where, and it was on a goddamn chocolate frog card. And so yeah. And we get the reference. Professor Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945, for the discovery of the 12 uses of dragon's blood, and his work on alchemy with his partner, Nicolas Flamel. And Hermione's like instantly like, and then she's back with this giant book. And she's like, I got this out of the library for some light reading, and Ron makes the light joke, and Hermione's like, psst, hold on. And then she finds Nicolas Flamel. And we find out that Nicolas Flamel is the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone. Boom! And that's received with essentially silence, because neither one of them know what that is. And she's like, don't you two read? Which the obvious answer to is no, but they don't get to that. And anyway, so she turns the book around to them, and we find out things about the Philosopher's Stone. I'm not going to read all of it, but basically it's the center of alchemy in this particular context. It is... it allows you to transmute any or transform any metal into pure gold, and it produces the elixir of life, which will essentially allow you to live forever. And the only current stone known to be in existence belongs to Mr. Nicolas Flamel, who I have to also admit I somehow hadn't made. Well, this is the kind of thing that I might have noticed and forgot that I noticed, but maybe I never noticed it. Anyway, it just happens to mention Flamel's age, and he's old as fuck. That's not the thing. That obviously he's old, but it's that he's 665, which means that he will be 666 on his next birthday, should he live that long. Foreshadowing. And he's been married, living a quiet life. Jesus. And we find out that his wife is 658. So she hasn't reached the dreaded number either, as it were, even though that number is obviously not mentioned in this book, and there's no actual Christianity in this book. Perhaps a lot of references to it, but anyway. And by saying that, I don't mean that they don't live in the world that has that. It's just not part of the story, because in the wizarding world they don't get into it. And the Muggle world is enough on the periphery, as it were, to not get into it. So yeah. Anyway. And so, obviously, lots of fucking dots are starting to connect now. Alarm bells are going off. Things are happening. Little synapsery things are exploding in brains and whatnot. I don't know what that was either. We're just rolling. And so they're like, okay, so the dog's guarding a Philosopher's Stone because Dumbledore needed to keep it safe for Flamel, and they're friends. So obviously, he trusted him to do it. So that's why he had Hagrid remove it from Gringotts. And obviously it's something that anybody would want. Now, at this point in time, nobody's actually thinking about the Who other than Snape. So I guess I'm sorry, they are thinking about the Who. They're just thinking about Snape. I take that back. And Ron, of course, is like, well, no wonder we didn't find Flamel in a study of recent developments in wizardry. He's not exactly recent at 665, is he? So yeah, no, obviously they think that somebody was trying to take it, which of course they now know that somebody, not now, but they recently discovered. Okay. They found out that somebody was trying to break into Gringotts and that particular vault, most likely, and that it had been emptied, and so therefore they realized that that's why. I'm just relaying the same thing out. You got it. All right, you had it the first time, didn't you? I know you did. All right, cool. Moving on. And Harry Okay, so we just one for some reason I can't even really decide why I had to come back up again because Harry already told Ron and Hermione he's going to play in the upcoming match, but it comes up again and he's like, no, I'm playing the Slytherins. I don't think I'm scared to face Snape, and he's like, we're going to win, it's cool. And they're like, we don't want to see you fall off your broom, but okay. So, and then the match draws nearer, and Harry does start to get more nervous, but he keeps it to himself, because he don't want to have to go back on what he said, and he wouldn't anyway. But he doesn't want to, after being sort of confident in making that choice, he doesn't want to back off of that. So, and of course, he's like, I really, 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 really want to get ahead of Slytherin in this house championship thing so that we can win this year. And it's mentioned that he keeps running into Snape. Almost feels like he's following him, which is kind of interesting because, like, what? Snape's not anywhere by accident, it doesn't seem like, so. And we get and so I had kind of made reference to this before because when Harry has his first class with Snape, obviously it's not a particularly pleasant introduction, and nothing's really been great about it ever since. But not a whole lot of mention has been made of the individual classes yet, that much. But it's mentioned here now that potions is starting to become like a weekly torture because Snape's so shitty to Harry. And Harry's starting to think that maybe somehow Snape found out that they found out about the Philosopher's Stone. But he's like, at the same time, he's like, I really don't understand how that could actually work. And we get foreshadowing that sometimes Harry has the horrible feeling that Snape maybe could read minds. And I think we touched on this in the Halloween chapter, actually. So yeah, another a different type of reference to it, because it was the staring into the eyes bit in the other thing, and Harry looking away, and that must be what has given. Having to look into Snape's eyes is probably what's given Harry that like sort of instinctive feeling of like, what the hell is going on here? And so we finally arrive at the day of the match, and and again, because it's Quidditch, we have a little bit of that camera movement away from over Harry's shoulder over to Ron and Hermione as needed, because it's mentioned that Harry didn't even know, and that's one of those things that doesn't really happen in the narrative a whole lot, that Ron and Hermione had been practicing the leg locker curse, getting the idea from what Malfoy did to Neville, and they're ready to use it on Snape if it seemed like he was going to try to hurt Harry, which this is probably not the greatest plan either, because if it doesn't seem like spells are invisible, so you kind of see the light. But anyway, it's not going to come up as it turns out. But anyway, the point is that, like I said, we kind of slide over to Ron and Hermione for a minute, and Hermione's like, now don't forget, it's locomotor motus, and Ron's like, I know, don't nag, and that's like, we're already, actually, yeah, that's obviously not how he says it, but constant hints at the Ron and Hermione relationship dynamic from the get-go. And Wood's like, no pressure, Harry, but if you could just kind of try to catch that snitch, like, as immediately as possible, that would be great. Because the longer it lasts, the more likely Snape is to fuck us over. So, Fred looks out and sees that, he says, the whole school's there. Even Dumbledore came. And Harry's like, oh, well, shit, that's all you had to say. And basically he's suddenly like, sort of a weight's lifted, because he's like, well, if Dumbledore's there, Snape ain't zero fuckery from Snape, at least on the tampering with broom front. Maybe not on the game front, but at least I'm safe, because Dumbledore ain't having that shit. So, and it's mentioned that Snape looks really angry. My brain all of a sudden is like, wait, did we learn in the Prince's Tale chapter why he was so angry, or is it just because? Anyway. And then back in the stands with Ron, Malfoy shows up, because I don't know why. Why would you show up in the section where, like, don't the Slytherins still sit together, even if they're not in the match? Like, I don't know why are you sitting behind Ron? Like, you don't like them. You just came over to taunt. I guess that's entirely possible. But and Malfoy's still trying to make jokes about how long Harry's going to stay on his broom, because, his material is fucking limited. And then for some reason, George Weasley manages to hit a bludger at Snape, and all he gets is a penalty. How he didn't get ejected from the game for that is beyond me, but whatever. Maybe he tried to play it off as an accident. And Hermione's just like fretting, as it were, fingers all crossed up like only an 11-year-old can do. And Malfoy is just determined to provoke Ron for whatever reason. I don't know, he's just... yeah. And so he gets into the whole thing about like how Gryffindors are chosen for the team, and basically it's like people they feel sorry for, like Harry, who doesn't have parents, and Ron and his brother, or not Ron because he's not playing Quidditch, but his brothers who've got no money, and he's like, you should be on the team, Neville Longbottom, you've got no brains. And Neville, he's like, I'm worth 12 of you, Malfoy. And of course they all laugh, and by they all I mean Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle. But Ron's like, you tell him, Neville. And yeah, more insults to fucking Neville, and Ron's like not even looking at him, but he's like, enough, dude. If you say anything else, like, that's your fucking ass. And then Harry goes into a spectacular dive, and we're like just the game just started, and Harry's already, so things are going the way people hoped they were going to, and by people I mean Wood and Harry, and really the whole team. But and in the midst of this, and this is even for Ron, who is obviously like really worried, the fact that he let Malfoy taunt him enough to affect him in the middle of Harry making a dive in the middle of a game, like the fact that he took his eyes off that. But anyway, Malfoy's like, oh, perhaps Potter's spotted some money on the ground. You're in luck, Weasley. And Ron's like, motherfucker. And he loses it. And Ron just fucking jumps on him. And then Neville like actually joins in. He hesitates for a moment. Neville joins in, and so now we've got Ron and Malfoy, and then Neville, Crabbe, and Goyle all like in a big little brawl. That's right, big little brawl. Not to be confused with Little Big Brawl. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure he exists somewhere. Meanwhile, Hermione's still watching the game. So we were just staying like camera focused over in the stands right now. And Hermione's cheering Harry on at least. And the trajectory that Harry's on has him speed right by Snape, like almost hitting him. But Hermione doesn't even see the fighting going on under her seat because she's so focused on the game. And Harry zooms by Snape, and then he pulls up out of his dive, and he's got the snitch, and the game ends in like 5 minutes. It's like a Tyson knockout. It's over. Quick. Meanwhile, Ron is still like tangled up with the whole fight thing, and it's just kind of ridiculous. But you know, not saying that I even blame Ron. At the same, I'm just like, as big of a fan as Ron is of Quidditch. It's just amazing that he let like that last taunt at that moment be the thing that set him off. But whatever. And so then we swoop over, and now we're back with Harry, and he lands, and Snape looks pissed as fuck, and then Harry's like, oh man, and Dumbledore, like, Harry feels a hand on his shoulder, and he looks up, and it's Dumbledore, and Dumbledore's like, well done, glad to see you haven't been brooding about the mirror, keeping busy, excellent. And it's funny because it's like, he's not just saying, I'm glad you didn't go look for the mirror. He's like, I'm watching you. But I don't think Harry actually kind of realizes that fully yet. Even though he did learn already that Dumbledore can be invisible anytime he wants to be. And, whatever. So, anyway, so that's the end of that, and then we flash forward to Harry's leaving the changing rooms a little bit later, and he feels great, he's like, I'm not just some dude named Harry Potter that everybody heard of because of my parents getting murdered and me somehow affecting Voldemort's abilities. Like, I won 2 matches in a row. I won this one in record time. I'm a good keeper. I'm like, it's not even, it doesn't, at least, it doesn't, because it's Harry. He's happy and he feels good about himself, but it doesn't ever really come across as like he suddenly feels better than everyone. He just feels like that he's living up to his name, maybe, or just making a name for himself in a way that's, has something to do with him instead of his parents or Voldemort. Which is kind of nice, obviously, after growing up with the fucking Dursleys too, on top of all that, like that's not mentioned, but just as another, reason to feel great about it. And we get like just mentions of the game. So this is one of those times where the match really, there's just no detail. There's like no Lee Jordan commentary. There's no, McGonagall, there's none of that. Like, everything happens mostly in the stands with Ron and Hermione, and then a little bit with Harry, and now it's like after everything, and we're getting like a little bit of flashback of like, Harry getting lifted up on everybody's shoulders, and Ron and Hermione jumping up in the stands, and Ron with his heavy nosebleed, and anyway, so Harry's going to put his broom away. And he's like, and I showed Snape. And then a hooded figure came swiftly down the front steps of the castle. And that figure is walking fast towards the Forbidden Forest. And Harry's suddenly not thinking about Quidditch anymore. And he realizes that the way the person is walking, that it actually is Snape. And he's like, while everyone's at dinner, Snape off to the forest. I have a broom. And so Harry quietly flies over high and then kind of glides down over where he sees Snape enter the forest, at a run no less. And he finds a tree and he lands lands on a branch. And he sees Snape with Quirrell. And he can't hear everything, but he strains, and then he hears, Quirrell saying, why do you want to meet here? And with a lot of stuttering that I'm not going to imitate. And Snape's like, yeah, I think we'll just keep this one on the DL, bro. And, people aren't supposed to know about, the students anyway, aren't supposed to know about the Philosopher's Stone anyway, so let's be away from all of that. And Snape point blank asks Quirrell, have you found out how to get by the dog, by Fluffy? And Quirrell's like, but me, what, I don't know what you're talking about. And Snape's like, you don't want me as an enemy, Quirrell. And Quirrell plays stupid, and Snape says, you know what I'm talking about, and he hears Snape say something about your little bit of hocus pocus. I'm waiting. And it's convenient because an owl hooted and it made Harry almost fall, and so he had to recover himself, and so only snatches of conversation, not the entire thing. Also possible foreshadowing. I've had this, okay, just really quick. And I don't know, we'll see how this whole thing goes, but I had this theory in the past that there's sort of a mirroring inside of this story where things that in the first book mirror things in the last book, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I do see a lot of things going through this first book that make me think of the seventh one. Anyway, and so Snape's like, yeah, we'll talk again when you've had a chance to think about where your loyalties lie. And so, of course, all the snatches of conversation that Harry hears only support his current hypothesis that Snape is trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone for his own ends, whatever those may be. He's not really thought about that, of course, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, anything that can make gold out of metal and give you eternal life does seem like the kind of thing that anybody might potentially want, So, he doesn't hear every bit of the conversation. He hears the bits that essentially support his current theory. So, Snape leaves, and that's pretty much it. With that, Quirrell's just left there standing seemingly stunned. And then Harry makes his way back. And of course, Ron and Hermione are still just elated about the game and Harry's, immediate save. But of course, again, Harry is he was, and somewhere deep inside of him, he's still happy about that, but all that's faded from his mind right now. All he could think about is what he just heard. So he's like, no, follow me. And so he takes them to an empty classroom. He makes sure that Peeves is not there, which, Smart move. And then he closes it, and he tells him everything that he just heard, which, of course, again, snatches of conversation, but nonetheless, all pretty damning, it would seem. So he's basically like, everything that we assumed is right. Snape's after the Philosopher's Stone, and now he's trying to use Quirrell to help him get it. He asked him about getting past the dog. He mentioned something about some hocus pocus, which is kind of funny that inside of the wizarding world that people would still use a word that's so like mocking of magic almost. Yeah, anyway, it's just kind of funny. It's just like a term you wouldn't necessarily expect to see in the wizarding world because it's obviously not an actual spell in this world. At least not that I'm aware of. Or any other way of describing magic legitimately. But anyway, and so he's like, yeah, I'm sure there's probably other spells that are guarding the thing, and so he needs to find out about how to get past Quirrell's spell. And there's the whole loyalty thing that he mentioned and all that. And so, so Hermione's like, so you're fucking telling me that the stone's only safe as long as Quirrell stands up to Snape? And Ron's like, damn, it'll be gone by next Tuesday, bro. And in that exact phrasing, that is how the chapter ends. And so this chapter really serves mostly the purpose of driving forward our mystery that's, been running throughout the novel, setting up for our little climax and whatnot that's coming pretty soon, because the first book is not very long. Like, in fact, let me just... That was chapter 13. There are 17 chapters in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So we got 4 more of these puppies, and we're on to book 2. And that's how I feel about it. People have been saying that's what they want, and that's kind of what I want. So yeah, we will keep it a churning, fake fucking insects and all, if that's what we have to do. Anyway, yeah, fun times, and I hope you enjoy. We will see you very soon, and peace.